Hey everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sam Solomon. I'm a staff designer here at SalesLoft, and I work with R&D on our design system. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about a pattern that's becoming more and more common in professional tools, command palettes. You might ask, what is a command palette? You might recognize them. Generally, they take the form of a search input, but the main difference between search and a command palette is that command palettes aren't just for finding things. They're for doing things, they're for taking action. Command palettes tend to benefit power users, users that spend a ton of time with the software, know what it can do. The other advantage is that they're invisible until they're called. So for users that aren't as adept, they don't have additional clutter in the UI. So instead of hunting for actions in menus, things like copy, rename, delete, they bring up the command palette and tell it what they want it to do. You might ask though, like, why not have a shortcut for those things? And that's a great question. Um, let's talk about keyboard focus and keyboard shortcuts. If your application is large, it is likely not possible or reasonable to have a shortcut for everything, and it probably shouldn't. Command palettes fill the same need, but allow more flexibility than shortcuts. When you're developing a command palette, the starting point should be the same as keyboard shortcuts. You should start with how you'd expect the user to interact with your application using their keyboard. Key piece of that will be handoffs. Handoffs are important because it defines where your command palette ends and your traditional UI begins. You can pull more of the actions into the command palette. VS Code does this. If you hit rename, it will bring the search or the text input into the command palette. On the other hand, with Obsidian, you'll see that it just closes the command palette and focuses on the name field in the current document. I don't know if there's a right answer about where to draw that line, but know that bringing more into the command palette will increase complexity. Context awareness. Context awareness is key to building an effective command palette. Global commands are a start, but knowing where the user will want to do in a given situation is really where the command palette superpower comes from. Um, One potential trap I can see people falling into when designing a command palette is conflating search with it. The UI is similar, it uses similar components, but structurally, you want to be clear about where search sits. If search is an important feature in your application, you probably want them to exist on the same level. So search is very important in SalesLoft. If you played around with a newly released nav, you'll notice search and action side by side. If you have a smaller app where search isn't important, you can make search and action within the command palette. So you'd open the command palette, select search, and then that would focus the search input. The distinction's subtle, but it's important. Okay, with that said, let's look at a few examples. Visual Studio Code, VS Code is a text editor. Here you'll see the rename option appear in line. I think that's the first thing I type here. Oh, create, and create is in line. Obsidian, here you'll see I'm going to split it to the right. This is the tool I use to take notes, but when I actually type rename here, it's going to close and autofocus on the document. There it is, and type the name. GitHub. GitHub adds additional symbols to further specify search. So you can see here things like if I want to just search repositories or users. Something interesting with GitHub's command palette is I can actually change themes, so I can execute some commands from here. Thought that was interesting. So I know the gears are probably turning, and I'd like to share some ideas about how I think this may apply to SalesLoft. Um, Actions. For global actions, we can kind of have an idea of what people may want to do globally. They want to send an email, make a call, create a task. But I think the real magic is going to happen with contextual actions. So imagine you're on a Cadence detail page. All of those like actions and menus and buttons in the top right of the page, import, rename, add step. Imagine opening the command palette, and then those should all be there. Another thing to think about is the workflow. Maybe there are tasks for tasks, different things, run, skip, reschedule, and maybe we even want to have shortcuts for those. But there's a lot of things like contextually, where is the user? What might they want to do now? That's how we should think about the command palette. I've got some other maybe more forward-thinking ideas. The extension, that's what the omnipresence piece here is. Imagine they're on a prospect's LinkedIn profile, or imagine they're somewhere in Salesforce. Command palettes provide a way to add additional actions to that page without having to actually inject any UI onto it, which I think is a nice touch. You can look at tools that like Scratchpad. Scratchpad's essentially a command palette attached to a spreadsheet synced to Salesforce, and customers, the reviews for that are amazing. Another idea is maybe this is the entry point for some sort of LLM tool if we ever build anything like that. But I can imagine a user opens the command palette and types the question mark. And then if you're a manager, maybe you want to know how specific reps are doing, or if you're an AE, you may want to know the deal status. And maybe it's a starting point for there. I don't think we should shove the entire conversation into a command palette, but maybe it's a starting point for that. If you're into command palettes and want to read some deep dives, these are great starts. There's some great articles for further reading. And that's it. Thanks for listening.